West Nile is a disease that's killed 16 people in Arizona this year so far. But are there ways to combat the disease? If so, are they worth the risk in order to save lives? What are the long-term effects? My name is Steven and this is Podcast. I'm joined here by my guest. In front of me is
Michael Ortiz.
diagonal from me,
Jose Perez.
right next to me to my right.
Jonathan Martinez.
All right. Thank you guys for joining. Today we're talking about the disease and genetically modified mosquitoes, West Nile in particular. Do any of you guys know what West Nile or genetically modified mosquitoes are?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. I mean, what are your thoughts, Michael? What do you think? What do you know about it?
So I know that the West Nile has killed multiple people so far. And there are things called genetically modified mosquitoes that have a mutation to kill off all the females and an offspring. That being said, they decrease the population of mosquitoes in hopes that it would combat the disease.
Okay, so by changing it, you're killing off the mosquitoes somewhat slowly to prevent West Nile from traveling?
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Okay, perfect. I mean, what do you think, Jonathan? What do you know about this so far?
Well, what I know about this genetically modified mosquito is basically it's a mosquito that is modified like through science, which is meant for combating other insects or insects of the same species that are carrying a deadly disease that are able to kill people.
Okay, so just changing the way. So they're changing the DNA of the mosquito in order to kill it, to prevent it from traveling with the disease? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Okay, nice. So what do you know about this, Jose?
Well, I don't know anything about the GMO mosquitoes. However, all I know is that West Nile disease is spread amongst mosquitoes, and it's found in Uganda.
Okay.
It's a country in Africa.
Okay. And so the idea is that, like we said earlier, changing the DNA and killing off the species to prevent traveling the disease. But is there any way to prevent that from having the mosquitoes go extinct? I mean, what would that do to the ecosystem?
So, assuming that the population of mosquitoes does decrease, it would cause other populations to decrease. For example, the hummingbird. Since their food source is decreasing, they have less variety and there's more competition. And from what I know, there's not really a way to stop the mutation from decreasing the population all the way to extinction.
Okay. I mean, what do you know about this, Jonathan?
Well, it's like if you remove a mosquito from like the food chain, for example, then it's gonna mess up, or like a factor from an equation, then it's gonna mess up the entire process of finding a solution. So, in this sense, then if we remove a mosquito, then there's gonna be an imbalance, which is gonna cause a chaotic reaction from the rest of the
food chain. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a balance. If you offset it, then there's going to be an obvious chain reaction.
Okay, so it just sounds like you're stopping something in maybe the more recent times, but you're causing something even greater for later years to come, right?
Yeah.
So then that begs the question, is it worth it? I haven't heard from you at all, Jose. What would you say? Is doing this worth it?
Honestly, I do believe it's worth it because if we are able to decrease the population of mosquitoes, we're able to decrease the number of West Nile disease cases in the world.
Okay, so you are doing that, but you're also messing with the food chain. Wouldn't that come back and still change the way humans have to live lives, but only for the negative?
I think that supporting the human population is more important than the long-term effects of the mosquitoes.
Okay. And then, Michael, I mean, I didn't ask you explicitly, but are you for or against doing the genetically modified mosquitoes?
I am against it.
Okay. Pretty strongly, or?
Pretty strongly.
Okay. Well, it's easy to, knock a solution or a possible solution, but is there any alternatives you think that could work instead?
So, say that we do go through with genetically modified mosquitoes, we have to invest in a way to stop the mutation. If we're not able to stop the mutation of decreasing the mosquito population over a certain point, then they'll just go extinct, and like we said, there will be other effects. But other basic things we can do until we get to a point like that It's just wear long sleeves, have candles, basic amenities just to get rid of mosquitoes.
Okay, and then what about you, Jonathan? Is there any solutions that you think you've come up with or come across that could do better?
Yeah, well, in my opinion, I feel like since we're investing all this money into science and technology to be able to modify these mosquitoes genetically, then I feel like if we rather invested that money into the medicine field, where we could directly find a solution to this disease, then we could directly combat it rather than indirectly by using mosquitoes.
Okay. I mean, those are both really interesting possible solutions to the problem. What's interesting about those is that, money is just a piece of the pie, especially when it comes to medicine. So you'd be cutting out of something else in order to try to support finding the cure, which is unsure, right, in the near years. You still think that's worth it?
Yeah, I still think it's worth it.
Okay. What about you, Jonathan? Do you kind of agree? Or Michael, my apologies. Do you still agree with what Jonathan said? What about that solution?
So I do agree with what Jonathan says, and I think it could be a nice solution to have, because instead of using mosquitoes to directly combat the disease, we're able to have medicine to directly fight it when a person contracts it.
Mm-hmm. The unfortunate downside, I mean, the only thing I see down with that is the fact that uncertainty, right? We don't know when that'll come.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it prevents something terrible from happening. Jose, what do you think about that idea? Putting more money into medicine to try to figure out a cure.
I think that it is possible. However, like you just say, that it's uncertain. Like we have such illnesses such as cancer that we've been battling for a long time already. We've put billions of dollars already into fighting this illness. Yeah, we haven't been able to solve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably a big difference between your solution and their solution. Yours guarantees a result, but it does lead to other problems, right?
Yeah.
Whereas theirs is an uncertain possible result, which would, ultimately lead to something far greater than removing an entire species, possibly removing an entire species. That's interesting. I mean, you guys brought up some good points. Definitely something to ponder over. It really just comes down to personal opinion and preference, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, science is what can prove all of this, and science, time, money, and all that goes into it. I appreciate you guys coming down and talking to us. This is definitely a problem that we're fighting right now, especially in Phoenix, Arizona. So thank you guys for coming down and speaking. I'd like to thank my guests, Michael, Jose, Jonathan. I'm Steven, and this is Podcast.